And welcome back to another episode of Sitting in a Car. I'm Sarah Sproul and I sit in a car every week with you to answer a question to help you raise a confident and caring young person who respects themselves and the people around them. And the question for this week is, how do I have age-appropriate talks with my kid? I'm feeling a bit hopeless and stuck. That's a good question. And I've been thinking this week about how much pressure there is in or on parents to have conversations with their kid about sexuality, relationships, and consent. On one hand, the importance of doing it is clear. The research says that kids who have a lot of accurate information and adults that they can trust and have conversations that are positive rather than negative, and looking at the fear and the shame and the worry of sex and all the bad things that can go wrong. So when kids have parents that don't do that, instead understand that sexuality is part of normal everyday life, those kids have an easier time of growing up and making good decisions for themselves because they're not controlled by shame and fear. The problem is, though, is that a lot of us were raised to believe, or we've learnt that sex is dangerous and sex is a bit scary and it's better to avoid it if at all possible. And that is just not something that mostly happens in reality. Of course, there are kids that are not interested. When I say kids, I mean young people, adolescents, who are not interested in exploring an intimate experience with someone else. But there are an awful lot of kids that are interested in that. And that's why we are where we are as parents, because we know that goes on. I have a friend who has small children, and like a lot of us have, and I have had this experience as well, her marriage is got to the point where it's looking like they're going to separate and get divorced. And I was talking to her the other day and she was describing what her day was like. Like, she works for herself like I do. So there's lots of jobs that have to be done and the kids are out at school. And so the house needs to be maintained, but she also has a business to run. And at the same time, she's feeling completely devastated about the way her life has turned out and this point she finds herself. And that day she went for a walk in the forest near her house and got a manicure. And she was sort of saying, I don't know why I did this because I've got so much to do. It's so easy for us when we listen to our friends and we can see so clearly that they do things like that because they need to do them. When life is overwhelming, for our body to take us to a forest or somewhere peaceful and calm, for us to allow ourselves to go and have someone paint our nails, what a beautiful act of self-care that is. And in the same way, when we look at our parenting and we look at this big, heavy task we have to do, which is talk about sensitive stuff, even though we've had experience, and so our brain says, danger, danger, scary, scary. Could it be possible, like my friend did, to act in a way that is kind to ourselves? And perhaps the way to do that is to accept that I'm not able to have these conversations right now. I haven't learnt, no one showed me how, I don't have enough information, and so it makes absolute sense that I don't do it. And then there's the next step. And the next step is to acknowledge that kids do still need this support. So what happens then? And you are sitting in a car with me, doing that next step, caring for yourself, understanding that it's not easy to do this part of parenting, and seeking out information and support so you're not on your own. We can't do hard things on our own. If our marriage breaks down, we need people around us to support us in that. And in the same way, as parents, if we've been conditioned to feel awkward and unsure and ashamed about sexuality, but we want to show up for our kid, we need a community. And we need a cheerleader, and we need a support person to help us do that. And that's Sitting in a Car for another week, where I've answered a question to help you raise your confident and caring young person who respects themselves and the people around them. Bye for now.